Hello again, it's Mike, and we're going to be talking on this CD about the two words closing skills. Now, I have to tell you what's kind of funny. After recording this CD for you, a couple of my staff members who listened to it said, Mike, most of the CDs are 12, 15 minutes, some are 18 to 20. I said, correct. The closing skills one was like a few minutes. I said, right. Well, why was it so short? I said, because there's not much to say about this concept of closing. I think one of the greatest fallacies in selling is the importance put on something that really does not have a lot of importance attached to it, and that is the closing side of the sales process. If you go back to that concept I brought up to you guys and gals years ago, where I said, if you look at the three letters P as in Peter, P as in Paul, and C as in Charles. And I would write these up on the blackboard or on the chalkboard, and I would say, okay, we have a prospect for P, we have a P for present, and we have a C for close. Which of those three steps is the most important step in selling? And virtually 99% of all the people I would talk to, and I've only done this for 37 years, will say that prospecting is the most important step in the sale. So then I always laugh and say, okay, if prospecting is the most important step in the sale, why don't you all prospect every day? And then, of course, all the heads turn down. And then about usually 2% of the audience would say, no, the close is the most important step in the sale. And I would say, well, why? If you can't close it down, if you can't get a signature, if you can't hammer it down, you can't get a contract signed. And I said, well, let me ask you this question. Would it be easier to get them to sign a contract if you made a great presentation? Everybody would nod their head. Say, well, the most important step in the sale then is the presentation. I want you to think about the fact the most important step in the sale is the presentation. If you have great presentation confidence, great presentation skills, you'll have the confidence to go prospect every day. If your presentation skills are not any good, then guess what? You're not going to prospect. If your presentation skills are real good, the close is easy. So let's look at point number one on this short CD and prove my point. Point number one says, closing is a natural ending to a good presentation. Closing is a natural ending to a good presentation. That's what closing is. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I've presented to you the price and the terms of getting your home sold. Are we in agreement? Yes, we are. Then what I need is your signature, please. How complicated was that? I mean, how complicated is that? And the answer is it's not complicated at all. So look at point number two. Always ask with a smile on your face the following question. Would you sign the contract, please? Would you sign the contract, please? It's not complicated. I used to always ask the audiences to stand up and all together with a big smile say out loud 3 times, would you sign the contract, please? Would you sign the contract, please? Would you sign the contract, please? Then I would ask the audience, how many of you felt chest pain? How many of you guys felt dizzy? How many of you got sick to your stomach? How many of you felt stress and tension? Because the truth is, it's a very simple question to ask. However, it's a very difficult question to ask when you don't make a great presentation. So always think about my third point. When you ask a closing question, don't speak until they do. Would you sign the contract, please? And I know that you're probably wondering if it's the right thing to do, and I can understand that. No, 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 no. Would you sign the contract, please? No, the CD didn't go bad. I just shut up. Because when you ask a closing question, you always stop talking on the spot. So let's look at point number 4. A great appointment is when the prospect needs the services you have to offer. They can see that the service will help them achieve their goals, which makes the close quite simple, doesn't it? So look at a great appointment is when the prospect needs the services you have to offer. And they can see that the service will help them achieve their goals. This makes for a quite simple close, doesn't it? See, it doesn't have to be complicated. And, you know, I listen to all these great speakers and trainers, and, you know, you'll go to a seminar, and in this seminar, we're going to teach you 47 different closing techniques. And I go, why would you need 47 closing techniques? Why not make such a huge, impactful, strong, incredibly great, you know, enthusiastic, energetic presentation, which will cause them to want to sign a contract. So all you have to say to them is, would you sign a contract, please? The reason you need to have 47 different closing techniques is because your presentation skills are no good. There's nothing worse than a buyer or seller thinking they're being tricked into a signature by all those tricky closing techniques. So you'll love the next point then. I wrote down that being a good closer is more about attitude, enthusiasm, confidence, and belief than it is about using strong words to intimidate the prospect. If you accept the fact that the majority of all real estate people truly are not salespeople, okay, if you'll accept the fact that the majority of all real estate people truly are not great salespeople, okay, then you'll understand that most salespeople in real estate are always afraid to do anything because they're afraid they're going to intimidate the client. Well, if being a good closer is about attitude, enthusiasm, confidence, belief, then you don't have to worry about being intimidating, do you? Point number 6, don't be afraid to be direct when asking for the order. You don't have to be hard or difficult, just be direct. Mary and Bob, I've answered all your questions, haven't I? Well, yes, you have. Would you sign the contract, please? I mean, now think about it. How complicated was that? How difficult was that? And then I wrote point 7, if you follow the listing presentation verbatim, and you're sitting in front of a pre-qualified motivated buyer or seller, and you really understand their motivation, the close is simple. When you haven't pre-qualified and you don't know the motivation, the close is difficult. I mean, I don't care how many of the 47 trick closes you know, guys and gals, if they're not motivated to buy or sell, you can have 500 trick closes and they're not going to sign a contract. So point number 8, always assume they're going to sign your contract at the end of your presentation. You can make this assumption by following your scripts, by nodding and smiling, staying on track, and always asking a lot of questions. So my job then is just to follow the scripts. Now, I can't remember the name of the sales trainer. I was in my early 20s, which, as you know, was a long time ago, and a sales trainer at a seminar I was attending said the following, which is point number 9. In selling and in closing, remember, the only no, N-O, that counts is the last one before you quit. Matt always says in his seminars that you have to be told no sometimes 5, 6, 7 times before they sign a contract. And I agree with that. You have to be prepared to be told no a lot. But the truth is, the only no that counts is the last one before you check it in and you quit. So point number 10, don't be afraid to smile and use humor to break the tension that takes place in a closing situation. Humor is magic in selling situations. There's nothing wrong with having a sense of humor. This is not life and death, getting their home sold or buying a home. And I think too often, too many of the agents take themselves way too seriously. Point number 11, they expect you to close to get a buyer to buy their house. Every seller expects that. So therefore, they would expect you to close them the same exact way, which is so true. Point number 12, you have to believe in your own value as a salesperson to get the customer to believe in your value as a salesperson. As the value to the customer increases, the close becomes easier. You have to believe in your great value as a salesperson if you want the customer to believe in your value as a salesperson. As the value to the customer increases, the close becomes easier because there is no tricky close then. Do you guys understand fully what I'm going to do to get your home sold? Yes, we do. Well, let's get started. Would you sign the contract, please? And then, of course, I wrote number 13, ask for the order at least one more time than you're comfortable with. If you're used to asking one time and then folding up your paperwork and going home, ask twice. If you're used to asking twice, ask 3 times. Point 14, remember you have to believe in yourself and your own value if you expect to get paid on a regular basis. I've said this time and time again, guys and gals, when you don't believe in you, at least the vote is unanimous. There's nothing I want more than a competitor that doesn't believe in themselves, because I'm going to beat them like a bad stepchild, because when I believe in me, that is transferred to the buyer or seller that I'm working with. Point number 15, they've invited you to their home for a reason. Your job now is to make a good presentation. Follow the script, get a contract signed. The decision is always made as a business decision. Make sure you're making a good, strong business presentation. Follow the scripts. Number 16, create urgency when asking for the appointment and create additional urgency when asking you to contract signed. Folks, let's get it signed. Let's get to work. Come on, let's go. They go, okay. And point 15 comes right from Matt in all of his great seminars with us. Be sure to close, if needed, 5 to 6 times. 80% of all sales take place after the 5th close. Now, I will contest that by saying you can close them the first time when the quality of your presentation is at the highest level. The reason for 5 or 6 closes on a buyer or seller is because the presentation is not as strong as it needs to be. Let's work on the presentation skills so we don't get objections from our last CD, and work on our presentation skills so they want to work with us once we've made the presentation. Remember, smile and nod. Would you sign the contract, please?